Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Lucas, and if you don't know me, I do a lot of framer content in regards to design and not only doing like nice landing pages and stuff, I also um, build web apps that are more advanced. For example, like marketplaces, digital asset stores, courses, all built with using Framer. And if you're interested in that, just check on the link below. And so, because we're going to have a bootcamp coming up in January of 2025, and right now we have a special promotion for the pre-sale. But for today, we want to talk a little bit about building bento designs in Framer, straight from Google Chrome. You don't really have to use Figma, for example. You can do it in Figma. It's going to be easier, but let's say I found this nice example on bentogrids.com, and I just want to build this with with um, with a Framer, and just go straight from Chrome, right? So what I want to do is I want to just take a little screenshot of this. Actually, before I do that, I want to zoom out and take a screenshot of the whole thing and bring this into Framer and see what we can do, right? Because in Framer, we want to build a bento grid, because a bento grid is something that many people in my community, in my Discord, and also my YouTube comments have asked me to kind of build. So why not do it today? So what we want to do is we have one, let's just see kind of the logic behind it. So we have a frame, let's open a frame, and let's make this frame have a border that is kind of blue, like light blue, and let's make the border a little bit more thick, like kind of like 4 pixels. And now let's just highlight everything, right? So this one is going to be like this. We're going to highlight the whole row. All right, and then for this first one, we have it like this. It's one, and then you can see there's this one going out of the frame. And whenever you see something like this, don't get scared. It's just absolute position. And I'm going to show you soon how we're going to do that, but just keep that in mind. You don't have to worry. So here we have one. Let's say that these are going in like different kinds of sizes, right? We're going to have one here. We're going to have one space. Actually, this should be like the same size. Something like that. Yeah, you can see it. And then this one, there's a small one that you don't really see. There's gonna be a spacer. We're gonna add that. Then we're gonna have the second one, and then we're gonna have this third one. And then we're gonna have another spacer down here, as you can see. Right? And all of these elements are all absolute position, right? This one as well. So all of these, I'm gonna make another frame for that. Let's make it like, instead of a blue, let's make it like a red or an orange. And so all of these little ones over here, like this one, like this one. Hold on, let's make it easier, like this one, or like these, right? They're all absolute positioned. Okay. So no need to get, worried about that. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be things like that. They're just gonna be, in a different positioning as the blue ones, right? But that's kind of like the main core understanding of how we would build it, right? And in order to build a bento grid, actually, let's first add the different sizes so that we can kind of design this responsively. But in a classical page, you put the nav bar, the hero section, blah, blah, and then the bento would come somewhere in the middle of the page, right? So what we want to do is let's just add a grid. So we can do that by going like this, and let's just draw a grid in the middle of the screen. It doesn't matter where it's positioned, just draw it somewhere. And right now we're going to see we have 2 columns. Some of them are going to take over 2 columns, like the first one. Some of them are going to take over 2 rows, like this one, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Also, we need to kind of duplicate them because they're going to be, you can see that they're kind of like 3 rows, 4 rows-ish, so maybe even less. Now for each one, important that we turn it into, we select all of them and we don't make them frames, we turn them into stacks like this. And all right, so we got that. Let's also play with the height and all of this stuff. So we can turn this fixed and we can make this fixed as well too. And obviously we don't want that at the end, but eventually it will be like that. And then this one can be, for example, a span of 2 columns, right? And then obviously we want the width to be fill for this. We can also, adjust the height a little bit, and let's make the grid fit the content, right? And let's add this grid into another stack. So let's put this into a stack. And let's make the desktop height, let's make this fit the content. The stack should be a fill width. And this should also be a fill width. But the stack should kind of have some padding on the left and right. Let's put like 120. Obviously in the phone we're gonna have to change it. It won't be like that. And then this would be, let's see how it would look like this. Okay, fill. And then let's just adjust the width of everything to be fill again. I'm just trying to see how everything looks like. Okay, cool. And then in the phone, let's minimize the padding on the right and left to be about 40, something like that, right? So, cool. So we're gonna have to adjust some of these heights. And in order to do that, we need the height. We need this to kind of, that everything, this is gonna be a complicated build, by the way. We have these little things, but they're it's kind of strange to organize it all. Should we add stacks? Should this be like one column that goes over 2 with 2 different stacks? What I mean is that, for example, this is kind of like half of the size of these 2, right? This top one. So these can be 2 stacks in one row. 2 stacks that fill the width of 2 stacks to fill the width of 2 rows in 2 columns. It's kind of hard to explain right now, but let me try to explain in the practical sense, right? So we have this one row, we have this one stack. Actually, we have this one stack right now. It's gonna, the width here is gonna fit the content. Actually, let's make this fill, and let's make this fill. And then we want this kind of to reach a span of 1 column, but the height maybe 2 columns, right? So then we have this thing that has 2 columns. So if we were to duplicate this, it would go underneath like this. But we don't want it to duplicate. We want it to be, or actually we do want it to duplicate, but we want this one to be a little bit larger, right? So we can make like it relative 75%, and this one can be relative 25%. So as you can see, it's kind of a little bit smaller. And this one can, for example, be, well, height will be fit content, or sorry, fill. And then the grid, let's just manually adjust the height. And this grid would have, it has 3 rows. Okay. We can do something like this. And then it has 4 rows. These would fit 2 rows. I'm just trying to see how we do this, guys. So height fit content. So we can work with something like this. Let's just try it out, right? And then this one would go like this. And we have this at the very top, which is going to be, oh, sorry, it's just going to be smaller. And we're going to have to fit the content here. And we're going to have to make this, we're going to have to duplicate that. So let's make it a fixed height right now. As you can see, there's a little bit of overflowing happening. And that's because there's something wrong with the height and the fit. We can also do is we can adjust the height of this to be longer. And we can make these, let's make these like 450. And then the height would fit the content. Something like this. This can be something like 250. This one as well. Let's make sure that they both match the bottom of this one. Something like that. This one won't have a background color, nor would this one. I'm just curious to see how it would look like in the other screens. Okay, it looks kind of shitty, but that's no problem. That's how it's supposed to be. We just have to make sure that everything fits. Stack, fit, height, fill. Okay, we'll do that later. Let's just maybe make this height fixed for now. We can do that later. But right now it's starting to look good. What we can do is we can just start coloring everything so that it matches the different shapes that we have here. So we have a good idea of what's what. So we have the green. And then up here we have this nice light blue. Now each one is a stack, right? So each one, if you were to put a text, so if I were to put like a text saying, we automatically generate reports for each of your customers, we can just put this here inside. It's going to be automatically in the center. So what we want to do is we want to make it, we want to first make it left aligned. And we want to grab the stack, put it on the top, put it on the start. We want to add some padding, right? So we're going to add some padding on the top and bottom. So top, yeah, let's say 30 pixels, and then the left 30 pixels. And we can make this a fixed width or eventually have a max width. We'll see how we do that. But let's just reduce that. Let's make it about like bold. That looks like more similar to this one. And then over here on the right side, I mean, this is a stack. It's going to be on the left. So on the right side, we need to have an image. So I'm going to just draw a frame like this. I'm going to put this frame like right here. And then let's just grab this and let's put distribute space between. And now for this frame, I want the height to fill and to be, like maybe 50% relative to the whole thing, or maybe even more, like 60. And then as you can see, there's this kind of problem that it doesn't reach the top. We want it to reach the top. So instead of adding the padding here, let's just delete that. And then let's give this another stack. Call it like title stack. And this one we want to, you know, adjust it here, put it to the start. And now for this, we want to add some padding on the top and the left. Like this, right? So we got our thing. Actually, right here, we can even see that it's not to the very top. So we don't even need to add that padding. But if we wanted to, the whole image to cover the top, we would have to do something like that. But we don't need that. So let's just go back and delete this. And now it's like this. We would need this frame to have a radius on one corner, so top left, maybe like this, and have a border on the top and left. So let's just delete these right ones, and let's make the color a little bit, you know, lighter, 20%. Let's just, for the fill, add an image placeholder like this, right? We also had this absolute one going up here. Let's just delete these frames, because we understand now the logic behind it all. But we need to see the absolute positioning of some of them. So this one has, for example, one image would be like this, where we have it inside of this image, and then the other one would go like this. So how would that be? How would we do that? We have one grid, and what we would do usually is we would have a frame. Let's say that the frame is like this, kind of looks like it. Let's style it a little bit so it looks more like how it's supposed to be. And let's make it 20% the border width. Let's bring it in here. Let's bring it in here in this layer that's with all the rest of the different stacks. That doesn't look good. It automatically like goes relative with everything. So we want it to make it to be absolute. And let's make sure that it's in that position that we wanted it. And oh, look, we have a problem. We want it to kind of go out of this grid, but it doesn't. So what we have to do is we have to even put it in another layer and maybe tilt it like they did here. And then just make sure that this stack, it's filled with. So if we were to go like this, it's gonna like be messed up, right? So we want it to be kind of like compact in a way. So we would want this, for example, to have a max width, I would say. A max width of around 1200 pixels. So already when you start like growing it, you see how it just stays there, which is good. For the tablet, maybe we don't even need it. So we can check in this tablet view and kind of see, okay, we don't have it here. So let's just delete it. I would say on the phone as well, we can delete it. So if we go like this, it just automatically deletes as you. So that's a good way. So we can only have it on the desktop version, right? So we did that. That looks good. Let's put this white as well. So, or let's make this an image as well. So that's looking good. Maybe we don't have to tilt it so much. It can be just a little bit more, and we can make it a little bit higher like this. And doesn't have to reach the very bottom, but something like this would look good. Right. Now let's go to the other one. So we have this text let's just put it in the purple one. Actually, all of them need a text, so let's just put them everywhere. So we put them here, and they have different titles. So we have celebrate milestones. And this one is automatic enrichment. And this is integrated with your CRM, right? So we all have text, and what we can do is we can make this text. Actually, we have this stack here, and we can just make this text go up into the start. Oops, not the end, sorry, to the start. And give this stack a certain padding. And before we do that, we want to just duplicate this text. And we want to make this stack go like this, because all the content will be going down, not horizontal, but going down. As you can see, text, text, image, and not text, image. It's going down. So now we have this next one. It's going to be called Instant Alerts and Weekly Digests to keep your team aligned and celebrate wins. So we're gonna have this like 30 padding everywhere. You already see that. But before we do that, let's just decrease the size of it and make it regular. And let's just increase the padding everywhere. And for this, let's just get this image. Actually, let's not get this one. Let's make a new one, new frame F like this. Let's put it in here. And let's decrease the size a little bit. And what we can see is that there's like an extra padding here for this image. And it has a bigger space around here. So what we can do is we can, for this image, let's kind of make it the same size. So something like this, maybe. Let's give it the same, styling, which was 10, and then the border around 20. And now what we want to do is we want to make these two into its own stack that's going to go like this. And now for this, we can make the distribution space between. And it kind of looks like lonely on the right. What we can do is we can try to see if we can just center it up. That works. So we can do that. And we have the stack and the frame. The stack has to fit the content, I would say. And maybe we can add a gap here, like 60 pixels, right? And here in the bottom, we can add even more padding, like around 60. And for each stack, I also see that they all have like these radiuses on the side. So something like this. So for this one, we need one. For this one, we need a radius. Or here we have a stack with two inner stacks, so let's give them radiuses 10 and 10. So now we have it like that. Let's just give this like this placeholder. And now for this one, we also need this text. Let's just put it like this. Obviously it has to be on the bottom, and this has to be going down vertically and not horizontally. And it has to be starting like this. And additionally with 30 padding, but as you can see, as the problem that we had in the beginning, this is actually going to the very bottom. And if we add padding everywhere, it's not going to work. So what we can do is we can also remove the padding at the bottom. So if we were to add an image, let's just copy this and put it here. We can do something like this. And then we just increase the gap a little bit. Oh, but if we increase the gap, it increases the gap of everything. We don't want that. So we want to just put these into a stack. Make it, like this. And then now we can increase the gap a little bit to our liking. And whoops, this is going in. We don't want that. We want the height to be set to fill. And let's remove the radius on the bottom so that it has this illusion that it's actually going like this. And we can actually remove the border on the bottom as well. So it looks like this. There we go. It's looking better and better. And now for this final one, let's just copy this paragraph text again, put it in here. Again, let's just switch this, make this into a stack that's going down vertically, and do something like this. Add our padding. Again, careful because on the right and bottom, we don't want a padding. We want this to hit the bottom. We can also add padding everywhere, but it's going to be more complicated. So better that we don't. Yeah, it would be best not to add padding to this main stack. If you want to add padding everywhere, just put this into its own stack and then add padding there. But I'm just trying to make this more easy for you guys to understand. So just follow me, and I hope you guys can get it all. Okay, so we have this. Let's just copy this. Let's bring this in here. So it's in the same area. These two would have to go to a stack because there's kind of like a gap there. And let's put this to the start. And we want this to be aligned to the right, exactly. And we want this to be a little bit smaller. And we want there to be more of a gap, something like that. And we have something that works. We can even put the height to fill, so it's more realistic. And then on the bottom, we remove the radius from the right and left on the bottom. And we remove the border from the right and bottom. So now it's looking like this. Oh, and we can remove that thing here, that radius also on the right. So it looks nice and cozy like this. So there we have it. That we made the official, like the actual Bento, design based off of this design. Really cool. As you can see, it's not perfect everywhere else, because for everywhere else, we have to make our own kind of style, right? In the mobile, it's not going to have the same layout. It's going to be more like under each other, the same size. It's going to be simpler. It's only for desktop that it's going to be kind of crazy, right? So let's just keep that in mind, right? Now what we want to do is we want to do more of these like these absolute positioning. So we can do another frame. Let's actually get let's select the cursor again. Let's get something like this, and we can just decrease the size. It's going to be something like this, so we can just put it here, right? That's where it's supposed to be. And then if we press play on this, we can kind of see how it interacts. And then it just disappears, right? That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. For this one, we can just copy it. These are going to be images, by the way. You just replace it with an image. You replace this with an image. You build it on Figma. You replace it. And this one, for example, you just, go like this. This is going to be an image that you make on Figma. So it's going to be like, you just have to replace it basically with your design. So this is all going to be absolute. This one is going to be a little bit bigger. This is also done for you, which you can also add as an image like this. And then if you go like this, see how it's going to disappear, which is perfect, because we don't want that for the phone. For this part, what we can do is we don't need this. We don't need this. All of these different stacks can be formed differently in a way that we just have to kind of see how we build it. Maybe we can even make it like this. It's going to be one row, and then this stack is going to be also one row. We have to see how we do that. So here we have one row. Let me just see why does it stay so big? I'm guessing it's because this is like one stack. So what we can do is we can, just try to adjust. So this looks good. I would say we can make this fill. This looks good too. This doesn't look so good. We can make it like fill like this. And then we can make the padding maybe like this. Make this with fill. Make this also fill. And that for the tablet looks pretty good, I would say. What do you guys think? Let's make fit content. No. So we just have to see kind of everything has to be just make it like this, fill, height, fill. Then we can, for example, delete one of these images or just have it a little bit, and the height can be relative, and this height can also be relative. Or this can be smaller and this one can be larger. We just have to play with it somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this one can be larger, this one can be smaller. We would have to see. But it would be basically in that way. And then for the phone, maybe it would be best to put it in another direction. Make this fill. Give it a nice gap between everything. Right. And this one, for example, needs a smaller gap, I would say. This one needs to probably be fill. This one needs to be less of a padding here. And as you can see, oh, okay, I understand the problem might be. So we have this empty stack here. There we go. So we have stack 1, stack 2, stack 3. Under stack 2, we have this stack that's still missing. And we want this height to be fill. Or actually, we want this to be fill. Excuse me. Fill. And that's in this layer, so this would also be kind of like fill. And this one should also be kind of fill. Yeah, it is. And we want this stack to be fill as well. There we go. So it's getting there, it's getting there. I want this to be fill. And let's just make sure that these are a little bit larger. So I want the width to be fill here. Width would also be nice if it was fill. And then I guess we just have to fix the height for these. To be at 150, the same one for this one. And then this has to kind of fit the content. And this as well. And this has to fit the content. And then we have it. Now it's looking much better. We also, so on the bottom and the top, let's just add some padding. Let's fit the content everywhere. Let's add some padding here as well. So the top and bottom. And then we have ourselves a nice little bento grid formation based off of this design. It wasn't a hard tutorial. It's pretty tricky. These bento grids are pretty tricky, but that's what makes them, you know, very unique and in demand. So I hope you guys kind of learned this. This is kind of a more tricky tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to help. I'm also going to include the remixing to this particular file in the description below. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.